Hey, it's good to hear that music on this Wednesday afternoon. That means it's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. I'm John Harper, and it's always a delight on Wednesdays to introduce to you the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the host of our show, Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. Good afternoon. It's always great to be on the radio lunchtime Wednesdays right here on 90.3 FM WEJF online, welcoming those who tune in that way at WEJF.net and the whole plethora of listeners who find us as a podcast. That's a growing audience out there. Thank you for tuning in. You can find us wherever podcasts are found, any place from Apple iTunes to Hey Alexa to Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it. You'll find Helping Seniors Radio there. But the reason that we try to be there is because we want to inform, educate, and connect you to resources that are good for you as a senior, or you if you're the family of a senior and you love and care for them. And that's the whole reason. We're always trying to educate, inform, and connect. Our president and founder, Joe Steckler, the same gentleman who created the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation, got Joe's Clubs going. He founded Helping Seniors. Literally, now we're in our 13th year of service, and he created the organization, he said, because there's a lot of work to be done in the area of seniors. Not all seniors are challenged cognitively. We need a nonprofit that can make sure that people are getting answers and help and navigation for questions that come up along the way. So thank you for joining us. I think you're going to really enjoy our conversation today. We have longtime friend. In fact, he goes all the way back with Joe. Almost, he's the guy who got Joe started on radio all those years ago and television. Dr. Lee Sheldon, noted area periodontist with Dr. Sheldon and Furtado, Solid Bite. How are you, sir?
Good, Gary. Good to talk with you again. How's everything going with you?
Well, it's good. And we're excited because literally right now, while we're on the radio, Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, is over at the Melbourne Auditorium. They've been enjoying the Mega Senior Expo all morning. Started this morning at 10 o'clock, goes up until 1 o'clock today. So if you're out and about, by the way, point yourself over in that direction. It's always a great thing. Nina Varuso, who puts these together, Platinum Events promotions, really always does a great job. And there's so many good exhibitor booths out there, and there's always good snacks and things like that. It's a fun place to be. So if you're out and about today, what a great opportunity to get there. They're going to be there until 1 o'clock today. And Dr. Sheldon, before we jump into the interesting conversation we're going to have, it's about a program that helps us raise funds for the Helping Seniors organization that your office has created like many years ago. Actually, you do a lot of good work for a lot of great charities in our area, called Solid Bite Gives Back. But one of the questions that seems to arise out of that is something like, if I sign up and I come in for an evaluation, do I get my teeth cleaned the same day? And we're going to get there. I want to share a couple other dates right away, just so you get these on your calendar. So if you got a second to grab a pencil and a paper, because there's a lot of neat stuff going on in March. And I just want to make sure that you're aware of these in case they make sense for you. One of the important ones, real quickly, is on Saturday morning, the 16th, we're going to be doing, with the help of the City of Palm Bay and some CDBG funding, a chapter in our 55 plus renters of Palm Bay workshop. If you were with us 2 weeks ago, you know that Frank Scaglione, who's the attorney with the Florida, who volunteers his time, actually, he's some kind of a big shot corporate attorney, but a really nice guy. But he volunteers his time with the Florida Bar Eviction Prevention Program. And what happens when you show up for this session, 9 a.m. to about noon at Meemaw's Barbecue in Palm Bay, you get a real education in renters' rights, so that if you're a renter, you understand what you can do and can't do within the scope of your agreement, your lease agreement, but also what your landlord can do and can't do, so that you can be sure where your rights are. And if anything's going wrong, with repairs or with, the prices going up or different things that we've heard along the way, because we've done a series of this now. This might be the sixth or seventh of these that we've done. They're always fascinating because Nancy Deerdorf and Karen Wernland, who man or person, I guess, if we want to say it correctly, they person the phones for the Senior Information Helpline, which is that free call at 321-473-7770. They both took it, as I did too, and I learned so much from it. It's a great series. It's free of charge. You must RSVP though, because there is some paperwork that has to be done ahead of time. So you have to call 321-473-7770 and get signed up for that. Literally the same day, I would be remiss if I didn't share a really fun opportunity also that's going on a little bit more toward lunchtime. It's the residents at Zon Beachside is having their open house. Now, if you know anything about Greg Kennedy and the Zon Beachside Assisted Living, that is like the premier, one of the absolute premier senior assisted living and memory care facilities in Brevard County. And they have been friends with helping seniors for years and years. In fact, our first incarnation of the Senior Resource Center Brevard was there in their building. We had to change that once COVID came in and it shifted everything around, but they are back stronger than ever. They have built a beautiful, beautiful place called the Residences at Zon Beachside, which is independent living. And they're having an open house this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And if you've ever snacked on Chef Jason's culinary creations, you will see how good the people at Zon are fed. Dr. Sheldon, that to me just sounds like a fun time. I'm going to definitely make sure I pop over there for some snacks after the 55 plus renters workshop.
You know, eating is important. Good food is even better. You know, we're going to talk about quality of care today, but you can relate it to quality of food. You know, so anything we're going to talk about, there is, and I got to tell you, Kerry, just to go off topic, but then we'll go back on topic for a second. At the American Academy of Periodontology meeting this year, talking about Jason, they talked about there are no studies that talk about the quality of care or the talent of the individual who's providing the care.
Wow.
So, you know, take two different chefs. You want to relate it to something, take two different chefs. And take a bad chef and a good chef. It's the same food, but it tastes different. We don't have any measurements of that. Do you know that? And so we're looking at all of these scientific studies. And we may talk about some scientific studies today, who knows? But measuring the talent of the person who's providing that, we've got no good way. And so, you know, that may be a good lead-in for this. But yeah, would I want to go to Zon Beachside and eat some of Jason's food? Absolutely, I would.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun day. And plus, they were so kind because they were just getting the place opened up. I mean, literally, they had just passed all their inspections and everything. And Greg Kennedy and his excellent team over there said, yes, you guys can come and have your Helping Seniors holiday party there. So we were literally some of the first people to go into that building, see that rooftop pool, the rooftop. They have a great rooftop dining thing that's going on there. Plus, when you just see the luxury of how they put it together, they have a concierge. They have, I mean, it's just an amazing facility. And I think that's what they're really hoping to do, was show the community how, you know, Greg has done that every step of the way. I remember going all the way back when Joe was hosting some shows with Greg before Zon Beachside was built. And Greg was talking about the innovations and how he wanted to bring excellence to assisted living and memory care and all that, and use technology and just make sure that everybody was getting really 5-star care. And I'm telling you, they have really done that there. It is so impressive. So if you get a chance Saturday, what a great time that'll be. But Dr. Sheldon, I love the question. And I was actually asking you this because I didn't realize that you would get asked this question an awful lot. Will I get my teeth cleaned the same day? And I didn't even understand the question to the point that I asked you before we began the broadcast. I said, when does it come up? Because I have thought sometimes, like, I'm already in the dental chair, they're filling a cavity or something like that. Can they just go ahead and clean my teeth now? And you said, no, Kerry, this is really, like, a lot of times people will come in for that initial evaluation and they're thinking that maybe I'm going to get my teeth cleaned the same day too. So I guess there is probably some confusion out there about all this.
Well, there's got to be some confusion. Understand that when we're looking at any business, and yes, dentistry is a business, there's a certain amount of marketing that occurs. And part of the marketing is come on in, and for such and such a dollar, you'll get an examination and you'll get your teeth cleaned on the same day in order to be able to attract new patients.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to, I mean, can you imagine? Come on in and get your cardiology exam, and we'll do a free bypass on the same day. I mean, that may be taken to an extreme, but that's the type of thing we're talking about. And frankly, it's so impossible to do that, and such a disservice to even promise that. And I'm sure I'm making enemies by any dentist who's providing that. 42% of us have periodontal disease. 40%, 42% of the people in the United States have periodontal disease. Periodontal disease and treatment of it has everything to do with the thoroughness and the quality of cleaning, and you cannot do a regular cleaning and control periodontal disease. As a matter of fact, you and I have talked about the difficulty in controlling periodontal disease, the technology, the equipment that we need, and the training we need, and ask any hygienist who's ever worked for me and what I make them do in order to be able to accomplish what we want. And so it becomes, all right, I'll get my teeth polished on the same day. I'll get my teeth will be whiter on the same day. What is it when in fact cleaning involves is a health and a periodontal health service? It's not a cosmetic service. So years ago when we saw that on a fairly regular basis, I said no. I say no to an awful lot of things in order to be able to create the right yes for our patients. And I said, no, we're not going to do a cleaning on the same day. Of course not. We do an examination, we do an assessment, we give you a thorough assessment of what's going on in your mouth, and then if you need periodontal disease treatment, fine. If you don't need periodontal disease treatment, that's fine. But let's not mix examination with services. Examination is a diagnostic phase. It's learning what's going on in your mouth. It's learning and being able to predict what's going to happen 5 years and 10 years from now, and to be able to keep your mouth going in good shape, with good function, good health, and good cosmetics for a lifetime. That has nothing to do with a service that's designed to assist in that process. So diagnosis first. Always diagnosis first, then treatment second.
I was thinking as you were giving me that explanation, because I having had the privilege of knowing you now for a number of years, I guess when Joe introduced us as the whole Helping Seniors organization was coming together, and I think one of the things that was kind of new for me is I don't think I really understood that you were a periodontist. I think in our heads as general public walking around, there's dentists, and that's kind of what we just lump everything into. Yes, maybe there's a specialist dentistry, but when I got to know you and learn about the practice that you built, not only what you built, but like Dr. Sheldon Furtado, who is also a periodontist, and the focus on gum health and things like that. And even though, even together with your son, Dr. Matt Sheldon, who's a terrific general dentist, expert in cosmetic dentistry and making your smile perfect and all those kind of things. One of the things that I kind of gathered is different, and I think very good about what you do at the Solid Bite office is you're concerned with our mouth health more than just simply polishing our teeth. And that was a question I wanted to ask you about. When we say cleaning, does that even mean the same thing? Like, I mean, I guess when I think teeth cleaning, they're going to put that little brush against your tooth and try to, polish it up with that kind of funny tasting, whatever that is that you guys use when you're doing that.
Funny tasting stuff, I think, is a good description of it. You're right. I won't give it any more credit than that. Yeah, I'll give you an example. I saw a 16-year-old girl yesterday. Yeah, we see younger people too. And she was brought in by her mother. And the question is, should I get a crown on this tooth? Because I've been told I need a crown on this tooth. So I looked at it and I said, well, I wouldn't put a crown on this tooth. But more importantly, when I saw a CT scan, I saw an infection at the end of the root, and the root canal needs to be redone in order to be able to save that tooth. More importantly, or as importantly, is the fact that when we have a chronic infection going on well into the bone, there's reasonable evidence now that that a dental infection contributes, and it's going to vary from person to person, but it contributes to an overall deterioration in health. For some people more, some people less, but certainly we're trying to get all chronic inflammation and chronic disease gone. And so the more important part for her was not should we crown the tooth, which is it's fairly standard, although there's no real good basis for it in the literature to crown a tooth after a root canal has been done. Yeah, there's no basis for that in the literature at all, even though that's commonly done. We got to get the infection under control first, and that's where the diagnostic part of it is so important. So what I did with her was I said, all right, let's get you to the best root canal specialist I know, and let's get that root canal redone so that we get rid of that infection, and then we can talk about whether we need to do the crown or not. Right now, it doesn't look like you do. That's an example of what happens in a thorough diagnosis. So where she had one question, I had a totally different answer to that question based on our looking at her, and in this case, evaluating the CT scan. And the CT scan is so important for this kind of a diagnosis, so that we can keep people healthy and keep people dentally healthy, and hopefully contribute to their overall health as well.
I was thinking as you were relating that story, it really comes up with, because most of us, since we don't have really the deep-seated knowledge of how our mouths impact our health, we tend to think about the cosmetic side of this, like, oh, I want a really great smile. I want people to think I'm, that I'm there. Maybe like we've talked about many times, maybe I'm concerned with that, not only just the looks of it, but the functionality. Like I want to be able to chew my food properly and do those things. And if I have missing teeth, I'm not able to. And yet you're always willing to dig a little deeper as a periodontist, and you're really concerned with like kind of the overall health of what's really going on. So when we're thinking we just need a tooth polish, you're saying, hey, let's make sure you've got good gum health going on too.
It's true. Good gum health is the fundamental here. We've got to make sure there's no disease lurking below the gum line. But even when it comes to cosmetics, there are different grades and treatment. This is totally off the topic and has nothing to do with this month's Senior Scene magazine article, which will be out April 1st, and that's what this radio show is concerned about. But examples of how do I say it? We come across as authorities, right? You got the authority. You need this, you need that. Well, I'm the doctor, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so a patient comes in and says, I want to improve my smile, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And I'm saying, all right, I've got that, and there's a number of things we need to take care of first. And this patient knew it, that he had cavities, and we had to take care of that first and take care of that. And I said, if you really want the best we can do, then we put veneers or crowns on your front teeth, because we're never going to get these teeth really looking 100%. But you're young, and I'm not sure that you're ready to have veneers done, or let's try some less expensive services first, such as bleaching. If you do the best bleaching in our office, that's bleaching for the entire mouth is less than half the fee for one crown. And
Wow.
so what if we bleach and maybe we'll find this is good enough, and we don't have to go to something as aggressive as putting veneers on the teeth, which is it's a bit of an invasive procedure. You have to sand down the enamel a little bit, and you're making a porcelain, let's say, fake fingernail over the tooth in order to be able to make the tooth look good. But maybe we can get away with less. So even with that, there are different gradations to healthcare, particularly in the cosmetic end, where maybe you can do less and get more, because the moment you take a drill to the tooth, yeah, we're doing something to make that tooth look better, but the drill also damages the tooth. And so we've got to be careful. We've got to be judicious in the amount of care that we do. And understand this is coming from somebody who routinely does big cases. But that doesn't mean that we have to do big cases on everybody. It means that we have to look, we have to measure, we have to discuss, and decide what your goals are, and see how those goals fit in with your overall health, and frankly, your pocketbook as well, to determine what we absolutely need to do rather than what we want to do. And we can, whenever we're doing an examination, it's always in terms of needs and wants. And needs has everything to do with infections. And whether it's an infected tooth, meaning it needs a root canal, or even an infected tooth and it has a cavity, versus want, I want to decorate. They are different emphases, and there's different levels of care that's necessary depending on what's necessary. And infections are usually cheaper to treat than cosmetics. So we've got to look at that as well.
You know, I was thinking about how already, just as you're talking about this, I'm getting a sense of, I can kind of think about this. I hear this term sometimes when they're talking about like cruise ships. They'll talk about, they always clean cabins, or hotels clean cabins or rooms, I guess, between guest visits. But every once in a while you hear somebody talk about going in and doing a deep cleaning, meaning that they're, probably going to reach into places that weren't, normally cleaned in the day, hey, we're changing the sheets and this kind of stuff. When they talk about deep cleaning, they're really talking about getting in there and making sure everything is 100% clean. And as we're talking about this topic, will I get my teeth cleaned the same day? I'm really getting a sense that, again, as a periodontal practice, you really are looking at kind of making sure there's a difference between that kind of superficial, my teeth look fine on the outside, even though there could be a lot of problems going on that people can't see. You really like trying to treat the whole mouth, as I think what the lesson we should walk away with is, right?
It's true. And I want to be able to look at a patient thoroughly, be able to look at the patient in the eye, understand what the patient's goals are, understand what I can do and what I can't do, by the way, in order to be able to come up with an appropriate meeting of the minds. And that goes back to the topic of this. Will I get my teeth cleaned on the same day? No, I can't discuss your case. I can't do the best examination I possibly can when we're trying to get something else done. The idea is not to come in and get your teeth cleaned. The idea is to get a full assessment and understanding of what you want and what I think can be done before we decide on any treatment part of it whatsoever. More importantly, there is a body that's attached to those teeth, and we've got to make sure that body is not adversely affected by those teeth. And so we've got to come up with that assessment. That's why we take a CT scan on everybody. Do I really need a CT scan? Well, I don't know until I take the CT scan, because no, if you have no fillings or no cavities, no periodontal disease, no, you don't need a CT scan. But that's not our routine patient. I need to look at everything in order to be able to think the case through, and it goes to how much time do I need in order to be able to do the best examination that I possibly can do. Probably, as you know, I don't do treatment anymore and haven't done treatment for a number of years. I've got Matthew and Michelle who do all the treatment. They do a great job. So my whole thing, and it was when I was the only guy in that office as well, is think. I want the patient to leave, whether they express it or not, saying that's the best dental examination I've ever had.
Yeah. Dr. Lee Sheldon, we're going to take our mid-show break. Before we get there, I just want to make sure people have a phone number to reach your office. We're going to talk about something called Solid Bite Gives Back. So you're going to want this phone number when we come back on the other side of the break. But Dr. Sheldon, what number is that?
321-259-8000.
Okay, stand by and we'll tell you why we gave you that number. Next half of Helping Seniors coming up.
And always enjoy hearing that music, and we're ready to go with the second half of our show for today, Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let me reintroduce to you the host of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the executive director of the organization as well. Here's Kerry Fink.
Thanks, John Harper. Good to be back for the second half of our Wednesday lunchtime gathering right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF. And still, hello to everybody listening online, WEJF.net. And if you're continuing on the podcast, thanks for continuing to listen. And by the way, if you joined the broadcast just now and you missed some of the great conversation we were having in the first place, that's why we always put these programs together and make them available as podcasts so you can access them wherever you find a fine podcast. You can always listen to them on the Helping Seniors of Brevard Facebook page, the YouTube channel, and we also post them out on the Helping Seniors website, which is helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. And we're having a great conversation. In fact, I want to pick up exactly where we left off. We're talking with noted area periodontist Dr. Lee Sheldon of Solid Bite Dental, Dr. Sheldon Furtado, right there on Sarno Road. You probably noticed the sign as you drive past if you're not already in there. And I want to pick back up with the same question I ended, and then we're gonna get right back into it. But Dr. Sheldon, if somebody wants to get in touch with you about the Solid Bite Gives Back program, what's the number for that?
That is 321-259-8000.
Now, to put that in context, the reason that you want to know that is it has very much to do with today's topic of the topic today is, will I get my teeth cleaned the same day? We're talking about when you go in for an exam, why that probably is not a good idea to have that happen all at the same time. But let's take a moment and talk about the Solid Bite Gives Back program, because that will help us as we kind of like talk about the rest of the topics we want to get into about why that doesn't happen usually. So, Dr. Sheldon, what happens in Solid Bite Gives Back?
In Solid Bite Gives Back, you donate $50 to Helping Seniors of Brevard. You write a check to Helping Seniors of Brevard, and you get CT scan, full mouth x-rays, the full examination, a full discussion of your mouth. This is a 2-hour visit at no charge. So just pay $50 or more, and you have that opportunity. And just historically, Kerry, it's something that we put in as our examinations became more and more expensive, as I needed more technology in order to be able to do the job that I wanted to do. And when it started to become $400 or $500 for an examination, I said, no, this isn't right. There are enough people who come in and get treatment done that I don't have to charge a lot of money for an examination. Sorry about the noise that's coming out outside. I don't know what that is. It's some kind of a jet plane. So I said, all right, let's just do this. Let's just involve ourselves with Helping Seniors of Brevard. We're involved with other charities as well, and write $50 to them, and I'll do the examination at no charge. And that way I didn't have to worry about, well, you're going to have to get a CT scan. It's going to cost $250. Oh, yeah, I need a full series of x-rays. It's going to be $150. We're not going to get into that. We're going to I need all of these items in order to be able to do a correct diagnosis, donate to charity, and I can do that, and that way I can give you the assessment that I want. So it becomes I was going to say a non-barrier, but certainly $50 to charity is a bit of a barrier, but it's going to be a minimal expense to come in and get the full evaluation, rather than say, well, all right, I'm seeing you now, I need to do this, and this in order to be able to tell you what you need.
You know, I think we've talked about how this is really a win-win-win all the way across, because it's certainly a terrific value for the person coming in. And I know over the years, you guys have raised, I mean, for a lot of charities around the county, something I thought I heard you say was like more than a couple $100,000.
Yeah, we're getting closer to $300,000 now. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Really
and so the point is, it's a great deal for the person coming in, because it's such a good, you're doing a good thing in the community, but you're also doing a good thing for yourself. It's certainly a great thing if we're on the receiving end, like Helping Seniors is one of the charities that is in the program. But we've done radio shows and TV shows where we talked about the fact it's actually very beneficial for you, because it gives you the insight and the tools needed to really make kind of a correct thing. Because we were spending the first half of the show talking a lot about the difference of between kind of like the cosmetic version of what you want out of your cleaning, but also there's some real health things that we want to talk about as you're thinking about your cleaning as well. And I guess that kind of comes from your background as a periodontist, Dr. Sheldon.
It does. It also comes from my background as a restorative dentist, because don't forget, I was a restorative dentist. Don't forget, you may not have known this. I was a restorative dentist for 5 years before I became a periodontist. Huh. And boy, did that give me some advantages going in. So, I mean, you can, and many people, I'm not saying this is wrong, but many people will go through dental school and then they'll go right into specialty training. And for me, I spent a year in a general practice residency in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and then I spent 2 more years of the Army War College practicing as a general dentist and also doing some periodontal work there. And then I went back to my residency and then came down here. So it provided me with some advantages in order to be able to help people, because I could see it as a practicing dentist from both ends, both from the restorative end as well as from the periodontal end, and maybe provide some additional perspective that I might. I'm sure by now I would have gained it anyway, but it gave me a head start when I first came down here, which was in 1980. So it's a long time ago already.
Yeah. Yeah, we oftenly, jokingly talk about the fact that I call you either the father or grandfather of dental implants, because you guys are, you really kind of pioneered a lot of that work, and so you really premier when it comes to the idea of cosmetic dentistry and whole mouth restoration and all those kind of things. And yet I really appreciate the fact that your focus at the end of the day is really on somebody's mouth health, because we've also done so many shows along the way about your own experience, and even studies we've talked about that show that the healthier your mouth is, it could really be helping your body, or conversely, if your mouth isn't healthy, you could be really challenging your body in many ways.
Yeah, it could be. Certainly, I'm proud of what we're able to accomplish surgically and restoratively, because Michelle and Matthew keep up with everything, and they're leaders in areas of restorative dentistry, and to include dental implants that requires a great deal of education and a great deal of technology in our office. I'm very proud of that. But Kerry, I'm just as proud of seeing a patient who comes in expecting me to say the worst, and I say you don't need anything at all. By the way, not everybody needs a cleaning. Did you know that? Not everybody needs a cleaning.
Yeah, I've still got a couple of questions on that, but yeah, absolutely.
I knew that question was there someplace. So I'll go to something else, and then we can go to whether you need a cleaning or not at all.
Sure.
The other part of this is, and we haven't talked about this on the radio at all, is the staff has my permission to ask me any question they want in front of the patient. Because I'm looking at the patient, I know the patient's afraid, I'm going to say something stupid or whatever it is. So the staff member asks me questions and continues to pepper me. And if I'm good, I should be able to answer those questions without saying, well, I'm the doctor and I said so. There are good answers to every question. And I'll tell you, there are times the assistants just keep me on my toes, because I've told them, I know you're not the doctor, but I want you to be able to diagnose and treatment plan as well as I can. And some people start saying, what? No, I'm only supposed to be an assistant, not all that. And then they gradually build and establish such a knowledge base that they can be, that they have my permission, as I said, to say anything. And as importantly, they can communicate on a knowledge level with what the patient wants and needs, not just how much does it cost.
Right. Well, so when we go to this question about cleaning, you and I did a show a couple of months back that was actually a lot of fun. It was we was kind of like our own version of a TV quiz show, except on radio, and we were asking a bunch of questions. I remember one of the questions was where did this term, like you're supposed to get a cleaning every 6 months, come from? Because I guess we've all just kind of taken it as a gospel, and that's what we just have in our head. We're supposed to go every 3 months, or for whatever reason, but we don't necessarily know if that's correct or why.
Yeah, and that varies from individual to individual. The every 3 months would be if you have periodontal disease, and we're doing our best to get it under control, but we're not quite there. And so we're maintaining or keeping the periodontal disease under control by seeing you every 3 months. The old method, and something that I'm sure most of our listeners are accustomed to, are I need to get my teeth cleaned every 6 months. Where does that come from? And it comes from a radio commercial in the 1930s saying, brush your teeth. There was Ipana toothpaste. I don't think Ipana toothpaste is even around anymore. But the story was, it's brush your teeth twice a day and see your dentist twice a year. It came from nothing scientific. It came from a commercial, from marketing, as most of the things that we listen to, well, maybe not most of the things, but a lot of things that we listen to in terms of healthcare, it comes from somebody coming up with a marketing plan. How do we do this? And this was I pan a toothpaste, I'm sure saying, hey, we've got to get the dentist on our side. So if we give the dentist business by saying come in to get your teeth cleaned twice a year, they'll recommend our toothpaste. I'm sure that was lurking in somebody's mind. And that's where it comes from. And that's where it is today. And so you see insurance plans are covering cleanings twice a year. You see all this type of thing. And it all came from a commercial that was almost, over 90 years ago. It comes from a commercial. Silly.
Amazing.
So does everybody need their teeth cleaned? No, they don't. I mean, if you have no periodontal disease, you don't need your teeth cleaned. You just don't. Now, if you've got some crud that you got to get off and you find it difficult, particularly behind the back of your tongue or behind in the front of your tongue along the back sides of the lower front teeth, yeah, sure, come on and get that cleaned off. If you accumulate stain, by all means, get that cleaned off if you want to. The people who are required to get their teeth cleaned are those who have periodontal disease, and those are the people who fall in the 42% category in the United States. That means 58% of the people in the United States likely don't need their teeth cleaned on a regular basis.
Wow. This kind of comes back to the analogy I was thinking about when you were saying this is I think, we talk about clothing, right? Occasionally you'll see something that says one size fits all. It usually is never a good idea. But it really says that, most of us need to get the clothing that fits our particular circumstances, right? What we need, how we're shaped and all that thing. And what I'm hearing you explain about cleaning is kind of the same thing. It's a very personal to whatever your own circumstances need so that you have the best health. And I guess I was going to ask you, there are maybe different levels of cleaning or different types of cleaning?
There are different levels of cleaning, but let me go back one step to make sure that I cover every base with regard to cleaning every 6 months. It's the mixture, again, of examination and treatment. So if people are prone to disease, including decay, you want to take x-rays every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, or every 2 years, whatever you need for that person who's prone. So the cleaning often includes an examination and x-rays. You may need that if you're prone to decay. So again, it isn't just cleaning, it's cleaning plus the doctor's examination. And how important is that has everything to do with how you take care of yourself and how prone you are to disease. So just to clear that up, that it isn't just cleaning and maybe x-rays and examination, that could be important. Now that brings us to different levels of cleaning. And yes, there are different levels of cleaning. So if somebody has periodontal pockets, which means you have accumulations of hard bacteria well below the gum line, and you need to get that stuff out, that is a level of cleaning that requires a lot of skill, and it requires, in my opinion, an endoscope, a camera, so you can see the stuff, because you can't get that off by feel, you have to see it. There's been plenty of studies to show that you can't feel it below 4 millimeters below the gum line. You need that technology, and frankly, you need hygienists who are trained to use that and to use that well. Even as recently as 1 week ago, we've introduced something new into our practice in order to be able to help dissolve that calculus even better. And I just talked with my hygienist yesterday and said, all right, we've been doing it for a week. How is that new stuff working? And I'm getting big smiles from both of my hygienists. It's making their job easier and they're able to be more thorough. And this is a chemical that's been out for 25 years, but we've never used it for this purpose, and it's working. So understand that there's always advances. Sometimes the advances have been around for a long time, and now we find a different application for that chemical, and it can make a big, big difference for you. And that is why if you have periodontal disease, you should be seeing a periodontist. It's just the way it is.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of different.
That's what we do.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of different parts to the equation, right? I was going to ask a question. I know, like when I come in the office for a teeth cleaning, there is a lot of different moving parts. It's not just somebody, like we were talking about halfway joking before, putting some polish on your teeth. It's actually they're in there with all kinds of instruments and figuring things out. And apparently, like what you're describing now, you guys have looked into something that's actually going to make the process even more effective.
Yeah, more effective and easier for you and easier for the patient. And for those people who've experienced it and understand what it's like to get a thorough deep cleaning done, which we don't call deep cleaning because there's so many names for it. We call it root planing, or we call it endoscopy. Then you have the opportunity, and that's it's what I pride myself into. When we opened up this practice, I'm only going to do it one way. And some people will say yes, and some people will say no, and that's fine. But we're only going to do it one way. And I've got two people who now are my bosses who feel exactly the same way, and I have a staff that feels exactly the same way. So I expect that that's going to be maintained well beyond my career, which is gradually coming to a close, but hopefully not too soon, because I still love seeing patients. I love doing examinations, and thank God I don't have to do the backbreaking work anymore. I can just see and look at you, and we can talk, and we talk about your goals, and the young guys will do all the work.
Well, one of the things I was going to say, it's interesting because over the years, like jokingly before in the show, I was talking about you as the father or grandfather of dental implants and things like that. But literally, your reputation within the industry is, you've headed up an organization where you're actually helping other practices learn how to get all of this right. And so it's great that we have you guys as a resource here locally. Because, it's one of the things in the helping seniors world, Dr. Sheldon, we talk about so much. We see these ads on TV. It's call 1-800. They're going to point you to the nearest whatever. It could be, it could be a place for mom or dad that, they would think would be good, or it could be about your Medicare. Oftentimes it could be call 1-800 something about your mouth, and they're going to, point you to, quote, the right place for your mouth. And you end up calling like this call center in Des Moines, Iowa. And those people are looking online and they're asking you for your zip code so they can figure out where you live. And then they're going to try to match you up with some corporate outfit, if it's possible, to actually do the work. And I thought, we live local, Dr. Sheldon, 100% local. And I often use this analogy with, we have some fine people like Denise Bergman with Senior Care Authority, who specializes in helping seniors and their families find the right match for assisted living. And I always ask her, I said, why would you talk to an 800 number when you can talk to a person who goes inside the building and actually does the work? And I was thinking there must be an analogy to to this dental discussion too. You're going to call some 800 number, or, you can just order this over online and that's going to fix your problem. And we know that's not going to do the case. Why? We should be much more focused on, since we have so many good resources locally, about getting good help locally, I think.
I would think so, and I'm sure Denise would share this with me, and that is that we have to be able to market in order to be able to get those patients calling us, because there is that corporate influence. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with corporate. It does have, it certainly has its place, but even within corporate, you've got better people and not so good people. I mean, that's within any profession, any business, you've got that. And so you've got to be able to put yourself out there, and then once you walk into the office, you have to prove to the patient that, in fact, this is the right place to go. Now, Denise has dedicated herself in this. Denise and Todd have both dedicated themselves in this direction, and have dedicated themselves to other businesses in the same way. So. Yeah, we started off this show with, there's no measurement of talent in the literature. There's no measure of quality in the literature. They're saying this procedure, we use this, and this percentage worked. Well, within that percentage, there is also the person who's more dedicated or has better training, has more talent than the other one, and that's difficult to quantify. I mean, maybe that's where Google reviews come in. I don't know, but it's difficult to quantify or to qualify. And so it is up to the patient and up to the customer to say, is this the right person for me? Whether it's a plumber or whether it's whether it's a dentist. There are different levels of quality. And by the way, some people don't need the highest level. They don't. But then it's a matter of determining what you do need.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I'm going to reserve a minute to talk a little bit about Choose Your Adventure here, but I want to make sure everybody knows about the Solid Bite Gives Back program. Again, as we were talking about why it's so important to get this comprehensive evaluation, this is a terrific way to do it that actually supports the work of helping seniors. So Dr. Sheldon, if you can give one more time a synopsis of how it works and then how people can take advantage of it. It's a great offer.
So the first thing is call the office, 321-259-8000, 321-259-8000. Let them know, whoever answers the phone, that you heard us talk about dentistry on Helping Seniors at Brevard Radio, and they will set you up for the full examination, which is X-ray, CT scan, full evaluation with one of the doctors, and a full assessment of your mouth, a 2-hour visit, all for $50 or more to Helping Seniors at Brevard.
I like it. For me, I like it because it gives you, as the patient, customer, however you want to view it, a really good sense of where you sit on that whole spectrum of everything we've been talking about. It gives you guys, as the professionals, real tools to help us determine where we are. And then, of course, I'm really partial to the fact that it keeps our little nonprofit going because Dr. Sheldon, you've helped Joe. You were on the founding board of Helping Seniors, and you're helping us now in that capacity. And really, the story is as you know, even better than I do, because you've been doing this longer than I have. If you don't get help from people who are helping you raise the funds that it requires to keep going, you can't keep going. A nonprofit has only one reason to exist, and that's to do service in the community, and that's what we do. So one of the ways Joe came up with a bunch of years back that's so much fun is the Helping Seniors car raffle. In fact, he said he helped build those Joe's Clubs, doing the same thing at Brevard Alzheimer's. So that's another important function. But this year we're doing Choose Your Adventure, Dr. Sheldon. We've got 6 cars. The winner gets to choose which automotive adventure they would like to drive home in. And when they win, and the date is going to be Sunday, October 27th at the American Muscle Car Museum. It's going to be another great opportunity to be out there on the grounds of Mark Pylock's amazing museum, see a lot of great cars. There are some special things that are being planned this year because it's going to be very, very kid-friendly. We wanted the date to become a daytime event, so it's easy for everybody to get to and from the museum during daylight hours, makes parking so much easier. And then we're going to be able to do some things both inside the museum and outside that were difficult for us to think trying to do in past years, simply because it was an indoor event because it was getting dark outside. So, but there are 6 really great cars. They all come from AJ's car dealerships. And let me see if I can actually remember them all. There's, for the first time ever, there's a Jeep Compass Sport is in the mix. There is a truck, a Chevrolet Colorado truck that's in there. Of course, we have the Mitsubishi, like our winner chose last year, the Mitsubishi Outlander. We have the Kia Sportage again, which we had a winner, I guess it was a year, maybe 2 years ago, who chose that. And then we also have a Mazda 3 sedan, which is a stylish and practical car. And then we have a racy little Dodge Hornet, which is a V6, but boy, it peels out like it's a V8. So there's some really great choices in the car raffle. Dr. Sheldon, have you formed a chosen adventure in the car world this year for these?
I have not done that yet, but if you want tickets, I have them in my office. So that was the segue.
That was the segue I was hoping for. You can get tickets at the office of Dr. Lee Sheldon, Solid Bite, right there on Sonner Road. Pull off the road, run in and say, I heard I could get tickets and I want to hear about the Solid Bite Gives Back. You can also call us at 321-473-7770, and Nancy or Karen will be happy to get you some tickets going. Or you can just visit Helping Seniors Car Raffle and just find out all about it there. That is about the time we have for the Helping Seniors radio show this week. I wanted to be sure to thank you for tuning in. Please always like and share all the things you see on Facebook about Helping Seniors. And by all means, get to helpingseniorscarraffle.com. Help us out, because you might be helping yourself into a brand new car. So thank you, Dr. Sheldon. Thank you, listener. And on behalf of Joe, Nancy, Karen, our entire team, we'll see you next week on Helping Seniors Radio.